everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Welcome. My name is Casey Schmaliger. I am Vice President at New Frontiers Executive Function Coaching. And tonight we're going to be talking about 8 secrets to doing things you don't feel like doing. As always with these, for anyone that's attending live, feel free to use the Q&A function or the chat function to ask any questions, make any comments. I will do my best to get to them while we're going through the webinar, but some of them I may leave towards the end. And of course, if you want to save any questions till the end, happy to address them then as well. I will also be sharing over my contact info if you'd like to follow up on anything afterwards. Always happy to set up a one-on-one call or whatever to help you get the most out of this. So we shall jump right in, being prompt. So we're going to be going over these 8 secrets to doing things you don't feel like doing. A lot of this is going to be talking about motivation and wanting to do things versus needing to do things. And we're going to be going through the tools that work when motivation doesn't. So just starting off, really looking at just asking some questions of how many things have you done today that you did not want to do? I'm sure there was a bunch. Are there things that you need to do, but you haven't gotten to yet because you don't want to do it? I think I'm a little behind on laundry myself. I just don't want to do it, but I need to get to it. Are there things you'd rather be doing than attending this webinar? I'd totally rather be on a beach right now, right? So there's always going to be things that we'd rather be doing. And we're going to be exploring this aspect of how there's so many parts of our lives, so many things that we need to get to, that this question of wanting to do it, like, where did that really come from? So before we get into the actual secrets, I wanted to just explore some of this initial aspects before we get into it. So let's start off with the myth of wanting. So a lot of people believe that if I really wanted it, I'd do it. And I apologize that we're going to use a lot of it's and abstract concepts, but this really can apply to a lot of the tasks that we're facing every single day. So many people, and I hear this through coaching all the time, it's this doubt of I didn't do something because, well, I guess I really didn't want to. And if I should really want it. And that should language is where I hear a lot of self-pity come in, or this character flaw. I'm just not good enough. Why don't I want it more? And a lot of coaching that we do at New Frontiers is exploring this aspect of why are you beating yourself up? It's not necessarily that other people want to do these things. They still get it done though. And so why did wanting or motivation become such a big part of the equation? And so I may use a bit of wanting and motivation interchangeably throughout this next hour. And that's because these are the 2 big things that I often hear. Oh, I'm struggling so much with my motivation. If only I was more motivated. If only I wanted it. Why don't I want it? Why am I not motivated? And in my experience, a lot of this isn't about wanting. A lot of this isn't about motivation. These almost sound like these mythical, this panacea that if only I could find motivation. And it almost turns into a procrastination strategy. It's pushing off some of the harder work to actually get things done. And it's unattainable. And so it becomes this crutch that I see a lot of people we work with leaning on. So just to really reiterate this, oh, went backwards by accident. So really just to reiterate this, need to do versus want to do. You might need to write a report for work, but maybe I want to scroll social media instead. Just because you want to doesn't mean you're not going to get to the writing that report for work, or that you need to get to that. There's moving on. There's studying for an exam for students out there, and that, oh, sorry. So studying for an exam, well, maybe watching TV. I want to do that instead. Pay bills or go shopping, do laundry, or maybe chat with friends, or exercise, or maybe play video games. And the reason why I wanted to put these both up there is if you had to choose, if you had full choice, do you want to write a report or scroll social media? Do you want to study for an exam or watch TV? When you pose the choice between things you need to do versus things you want to do, you're setting yourself up for failure. It isn't really a choice between the need to do and want to do. But so many people in their head, subconsciously, I'm not saying it's always a conscious decision. When we really sit people down and talk through this, they know they need to do the need to do column. But we set ourselves up in the moment like it's a choice between these two columns of need to do or want to do. And why do we do that? It's so irrational. You sit down with your totally rational self that the need to do's are going to benefit us more in the long run, that we need to get to them, and there's consequences if we don't. But why do we make these choices and we fall into the want to do's instead? And that's going to be a big exploration for today. So, to start answering that question of why do we get there, is let's look at some of these inputs, outputs, and times. So, we'll use some of the examples from the previous slide. So, with an input, and we'll look at output, but also rewards, because the outputs that we create from tasks aren't just the final products all the time. They're tied to rewards that come from it. That's a lot of the reasoning why we do things. So when you write a report for work, the real output and reward, there's a lot of time that goes by where then you may get praise at like a quarterly review or an annual review. You're always on time with your reports for work. You always get all your tasks done. You always get your work done on time. But that reward, that output from your efforts, there's a lot of time that goes by in between. Similarly, studying for an exam, there's a lot of time that goes by before you get a good grade. And it's even longer when you think about practicing studying for an exam, working on study strategies. You might not start seeing good grades right away, and there could be even more time. And so when you compare that to tasks like, well, if I scroll social media, the time until that reward is instantaneous almost. And so the output there is you get instant novelty and stimulation. Watching TV, similarly, extremely short time until the output. It's an instant escape from stress or thinking. It's this escapism that can come in. And so the reward is so much closer to that input. And this is so pervasive in our society now. So much is in front of us where you can get instant gratification. And these rewards, and this is why I wanted to say it's not just the output, because one might say, well, getting a report done for work can feel really good because I don't have to worry about it anymore. But that feeling really good is a learned behavior. Feeling good to get these things done, that decreasing that time for that output is not something that just happens overnight. It takes a lot of experience and it's not as instantaneous. It takes effort to also get these top two done, whereas the bottom two take very little effort to get the rewards. So let's drive this reward concept a little bit further. When we're talking about rewards, and if I look to the side, it's me just looking to see if there's any questions that have come in yet. When we talk about rewards, we're talking about often, like especially mental rewards and these outputs. We're talking about dopamine. It is a neurotransmitter, it's a chemical in our body, a hormone. It is our reward hormone. It makes us feel good about something we've done. And our society is now really designed, dopamine has been hijacked, our systems have been hijacked. It's actually, um, I don't have problems with capitalism, but everything is designed to hijack our dopamine system. Social media companies want perpetual usage. And so they found a great way to tap into our dopamine system so that we keep wanting to come back and do more and do constant scrolling. And so our brains have been trained for these quick hits of dopamine. I'll even use an example beyond social media since that's such a used one. Think about, I remember when I used to come home from school, I would go on, I'd put on Cartoon Network to watch my cartoons. There would be about 10 minutes of cartoons, and then you'd have a commercial break. But now we have YouTube. I'm bored of this video. Switch to a new video. Netflix, I can switch. Oh, I don't like this part. Switch over it. It's just so much of these quick hits of dopamine of giving us what we want when we want it right now. I want to feel good right now. This feeling good addiction of feeling good as a prerequisite instead of a reward, where our society is starting to make us like, well, I don't feel comfortable right now. Oh, this is annoying. I don't want to do this. It's not just someone being spoiled. It's a lot of, and if you hear this about yourself, it's not that you're spoiled or you're impatient. It's that you're so used to having dopamine as a motivator, of having dopamine as that fuel to be able to do things, that when you have tasks that have farther off rewards, they do feel that much harder because it does feel like you're missing fuel. But dopamine and this motivation aspect is never meant to be a fuel for us of getting things done. But it has become almost a precondition in order to do things. And we have to get ourselves off of this addiction. Hijacking the dopamine system, where we really are facing this problem that these dopamine systems in our brains were set up to reward after higher amounts of effort. Yet there are so many ways that we can access that reward system with much lower amounts of effort. We're not getting rid of social media. We're not getting rid of Netflix. We're not going to remove these instant gratification and go against how our dopamine systems have been hijacked. We can't. The tides have turned too far that we're not turning that back. But we can work with this to try and create change. We can acknowledge that we do have these things working against us. And so we do have to put in additional effort to trick our brains and to set ourselves up for success. Whereas this maybe used to happen automatically. Maybe it used to happen if there any parents that are here when you were growing up, you didn't have this societal barrier making it harder for you to do these things. But it is a reality of today. And I'm sure even for parents or adults that are here, you may feel like something's wrong with you. I used to be able to do these things. Why can't I? A lot of this is this dopamine trap that society has set ourselves up for. So the first step is identifying the problem. And all of you being here is a first step in starting to do something against it. So we are going to slowly move over to talking about the secrets, and all of these secrets are to try and trick our brains and adapt ourselves and how we set ourselves up for success to overcome this problem that we face. So a shift that we want to be doing is moving from this motivation myth, this want, um, to more practical systems that can set us up for success. And I'm going to keep reiterating it. It's not that you're lazy if you don't do these things. It's not that you don't care. These aren't character flaws. It's about working with how the brain really works and us understanding the odds are stacked against us, and how we do need to put in this additional effort to be successful and be more happy with ourselves and lead to the outcomes that we do want. Because I will say, I give the benefit of the doubt to most people that come seeking out our supports. You all want to be successful. You don't want to be scrolling social media. You often want to be successful in school. You want successful careers. But in that moment, you fall into these traps. So have some self compassion. Don't beat yourselves up that it's these character flaws. It's more that we just have to put in some additional effort to work with what we're working with. So I've broken up the secrets into four main categories. The first one that we're going to talk about is to make starting easier. We're going to be trying to remove that need for motivation to begin by decreasing this barrier to entry. How can we make it easier to get started so that we're not so reliant on this is a monumental task, I need motivation? The second is going to be looking at building systems for success so that we stop asking, what do I feel like doing in the moment? Because we know if it comes down to what do I feel like doing in the moment, it's not often what we need to be doing or what our future selves will wish we did, which is also a really key thing. And we'll talk about a bit. If you ask yourself in a week, hey, those 3 hours on Friday that you spent scrolling TikTok, was that worth it? Well, no. Your future self may hindsight's 2020. So how do we move out of the what do I feel like doing in the moment with systems to set ourselves up for success? The third category is going to be looking at adding extrinsic supports, external supports, things like using accountability and rewards to help get out of our own ways. And then lastly, is for rewiring your reward system. So through practice and consistency to make effort feel rewarding again. So let's jump right into the secrets. Oh, wait, one more thing before you jump in. So these secrets aren't about willpower. They're about creating conditions where progress happens anyway. They're about setting ourselves up for when we are having a crappy day, that we can still move forward and be productive. Maybe not as productive when we're having a great day, but how can we still move forward and not experience a total shutdown? I do always share these in the webinars. I try to package these concepts and these strategies in the simplest, most concrete ways possible. But knowing what to do isn't always the hard part. A lot of people we work with, they know what to do. But doing it in the moment is where there's challenges. And so doing it when your brain is fighting back, when your brain's rebelling, when it's being more irrational in the moment and not thinking about what's best for you in the long run, that is the hard part. And so these secrets are attempts to try and sidestep that resistance. It's not to try and make that resistance go away. That happens over time. But it's to try and figure out how we can, like you may hear of things like brain hacks. I refer to it as tricking our brains to try and set ourselves up for success. And that's what these secrets are focusing on. So, secret one, the 2 minute takeoff. So the the 2 minute takeoff is really looking at why does this work? It's overwhelm can make tasks feel monumental. And so by trying to shrink the start, this takeoff period, it helps lower the barrier and it allows the concept of momentum to carry you forward. So many people may have heard, if you've looked into some of this, if getting started on something that you don't want to do is difficult, you may have heard of the Pomodoro technique, where it's a 15-minute timer and then or a 20-minute timer, and then it gives you a 5-minute break. And the real secret to the Pomodoro method is that once you get started, you don't need that break, but you're not committing to doing 2 hours of work, you're committing to 15 minutes of work. This is taking that even a step further. Let's break this down to 2 minutes. Let's only focus on 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not as overwhelming as an hour, 2 hours, or a whole project. The first step of something is not overwhelming as the first 10 steps. And the secret to this is that when you get going, momentum builds, and then you're able to keep moving forward. So, what your inner voice, again, oh, this sounds so simple. Like, why isn't everyone doing this? Well, it's often that your inner voice is saying, this is just too much. I don't even know where to start. And then you avoid, you go, yeah, you know what you can do quickly in 1 minute and experience rewards? Oh, let me go onto social media. But let's try and decrease this to the 2 minutes. And so we want to try and build in this new line of thinking. If I even get just one piece done, just one step, it's closer to the finish line. And by committing to that, just that one step, you can start chipping away and make it not feel like such a big monster that you're trying to tackle. And this often is when you have something you need to do, but then there's something you want to do. The need to do can feel overwhelming, and then we get into some procrastination. Oh, you know what? Let me just go onto social media for a couple of minutes and then I'll come back to the task. This is try to flip the script. Let's just do 2 minutes of this task and then let's reassess where we're at if we can keep going. So just to make this a little bit more concrete of some strategies to try out is, so first, think about the first 2 minutes only. Sometimes that's as simple as, let me at least just get my station set up. So if you're doing homework, let me just get my pen, or let me get my laptop. Let me set things up. Just do the first 2 minutes of it. That can be work tasks. So sometimes if I'm feeling like, oh my God, I don't want to do this task, maybe I'll just start off with going through some emails. Maybe I'll just do, oh my God, I have to go through my emails. I'm behind on my emails. Well, let me just do the first 10 I see. It's taking a small bite at first. You're only thinking about committing to these first 2 minutes. Now, if you're stuck on not even knowing what the first 2 minutes are and what to commit to the first 2 minutes, using some of that to start planning or organizing the steps can be very helpful. The other little secret with that is if you're able to map out each of the steps that you need to complete this big task, it can make it feel less overwhelming. Oh my God, I thought there was going to be 15 steps to this process. There's only 5. And then that overwhelm gets tackled. And then, so just continuing on with that, that might be breaking study for test into, let me open the notebook and review one page. Let me just do that. So really what you're trying to do is decrease the expectations on ourselves so that this inner voice of this is too much, I don't even know where to start. The thing is, you often do know where to start, but by thinking of the whole thing, you shut down and you can't even do the first step. Versus, let me pick out just one step and let me do just that one. It can make it feel a lot less overwhelming. It also helps your brain get into that productive mode so that when you are continuing on, you're in a better mindset. Wow, I got the first step done. Let me just move on and get the second and third step done. They don't seem that bad. Action shrinks the anxiety. So oftentimes by doing things that you don't want to do, there's anxiety around it. You know you need to. When are you going to get to it? I don't feel like I can do it now. Oh my God, I'm never going to get it done. Oh my God, let me go escape. Let me put on the TV. It's anxiety that's coming in, that's preventing you from starting those things that you don't want to do. It's often that the reason why you don't want to do it is a lot of self-doubt and anxiety. So by taking certain small action steps, it's chipping away at that anxiety. That inner voice in your head that's telling you, I don't even know where to start, that's causing the anxiety. By doing just one small step, you've proven that inner voice wrong. That's what I mean by starting to trick our brains a little bit. Lower commitments to tackle this. Okay. I'll do a little reminder after each. If there's any questions or anything, feel free to throw them into the Q&A function. Secret 2, progress beats perfect. I actually had a short video that I posted a while ago about the cult of progress. A great little video, you can check it out. But let's talk about this in the secret. So why does this work? Perfection is built through iteration, not hesitation. So by getting started, this is creating something that you can refine, and really try to convince yourself that no one nails it on the first try. And so when we find ourselves delaying, when that perfectionism voice is coming into our heads, it's telling us a lie. It's telling us that if I can't do this perfectly right now, it's not worth starting. But we really need to start going down this new line of thinking of excellence as in a launch point. It's the outcome of multiple rounds of progress. So I know in my work, this comes up a lot with writing tasks, whether it's writing an email, whether it's writing a paper. I see a lot of perfectionism come in. So one of the things that I've really tried doing when I'm working with people is to help them of like building up. Let's see, I think I have it here. Yes. So looking at the second one of building a safety net. So if there is something that, oh my God, this needs to be perfect and this is getting in the way, and I don't feel like I'm bringing my best self, I'm going to be embarrassed of my work. I'm going to do this. Building the safety net of sharing early drafts, if it's written, or early products with things, sharing it with a trusted peer or mentor is a great way to get advice that you trust. So if your fear of this isn't going to be good enough, or if it's going to take you a long time, by having someone, you can set some earlier deadlines for yourself, so that you're able to have this safety net where you can have someone cross-check it. And that helps you decrease this anxiety that you may experience. But let's start off looking at this first try this. So one thing that often helps out is with this progress beats perfect tip, map out the milestones. So often when you have some of this perfectionism that's holding you back from things you need to do instead of things you want to do, what's happening is there's this jumping from A to Z, and all of the stuff that happens in between is being missed. So let's use writing a paper again as an example, or studying as an example, or for more adults, mapping out your schedule, drafting up a proposal. What our line of thinking often is I'm going to go from pulling up the Word doc, the Google doc, and then the next step in that process is I'm going to have a fully finished final product that's perfect. When really, by breaking out steps A, B, C, D, E, and mapping out each of the steps of how you get to Z, you're breaking down this perfectionism aspect into progress milestones. So with this example of writing, I've done this a lot where let's just word vomit. And if we can get a page worth of just nonsense notes, getting your thoughts out onto paper, that's perfect, right? Let's just get one page out of thoughts. Instead of we need to have the full paper fully done and written out. That's not perfect. That's perfect for step Z. But what's perfect for A to B? And so what you do is you're almost tricking your brain into setting smaller goals that are more achievable so that you can still channel some of that. I want to do my best work, but let's break them down into more achievable steps instead of the unsustainable, unrealistic expectations of getting the full final product perfect on the first go. I talked about the safety net, but also looking at the redefining the task. So this complements a little bit from that first tip, but redefine the task of let's create a low pressure goal. And so by building out and taking some of the long-term goals and building some smaller goals. So when you're dealing with certain tasks that you don't want to do, if this kind of perfectionism tends to be what's holding you back from the things that you need to do, let's try and build some low pressure goals to prove to yourself that you can break this down, that you can apply these strategies. One thing you'll hear a lot through these secrets, is you're trying to convince your brain that the way it's thinking isn't the only way. It ties to cognitive flexibility. So if we can set some lower pressure goals and some areas that maybe we need to get to, but that we don't want to get to, let's prove to ourselves that we can get to those. And that progress is a way to help build up evidence for your brain to see that maybe the other way it's thinking isn't the only way. And so clarifying the goal as a final thing to try out, really mapping out what does perfection look like, and thinking about, is that really what you're striving for, or is it something else? Is it a form of excellence? What is perfect? And so this way you're making it where if you are striving for perfection and nothing is good unless it's perfect, well, what is perfect? How would I even get there? Is that realistic? And so there is sometimes this aspect of goal setting that you really need to bring in as a strategy to try out of what is it that you're actually trying to achieve. Now, you may need to get to those things, but something you need to get to that's unattainable is always going to feel like something you shouldn't get to because you can never attain it. So why would you spend your time on it? Let me go to something I know I can do. I can pull up social media. I can successfully like my friends. I can reply to friends. So you're going, rather than moving towards something unattainable, you're trying to set yourselves up with things that are attainable. And so sometimes that is breaking goals down into smaller steps. Progress creates that pathway to excellence. And the more you can build up evidence to prove that to your brain, to remove that inner voice that's saying, if you can't do it perfectly now, it's not worth starting. Let's try and build up some of the evidence that it actually is. Brain hack. You're trying to accept that your brain is working that way and build up evidence to make it start thinking a different way. Secret three, getting over the hump. So when you're doing new tasks, new strategies, new things that you need to get to, the first couple of times that you do it, they drain a lot of energy, but they do get easier with repetition. So understanding that the difficulty that you're facing now won't last forever. And so oftentimes you have the things on your need to do list, things that you don't want to necessarily do. You might not want to do them because they feel really hard. I need to get to it, but I don't know. It's so difficult. It takes so much time. But what ends up happening is with that line of thinking, what we're seeing is the inner voice saying, this is too hard and takes too long. It's unsustainable. And you know what? If it always took that long, if it was always that hard as the first time you did it, you're right. That is rational. It is unsustainable. But the secret here is that we need to try and develop this new line of thinking of it feels hard because it's new, not because I can't do it. And so really the secret part of this is that the more you repeat something, not only the easier it becomes, the more efficient you become doing these things. So these need to do's, the barrier to getting it done decreases over time. So it becomes less of a question of, oh my God, I don't want to do this. It's so difficult. Yes, it's difficult at first. Have that self compassion. Everything is difficult when you're doing something for the first time. But that repetition is what does decrease that hump and make it easier to do moving forward. So some things to try out could be practicing in short bursts. So rather than trying to do all of your need to do's, all of the things that are really difficult that you don't want to do, rather than doing them all at once, mix in more of the difficult tasks with more automatic tasks. And we'll talk about the automatic tasks as we get to routines. But by mixing it in, you're not overextending yourselves with so many of these things that you find very difficult. You're mixing them in so that you're not facing so many difficulty humps all at once, because that can be overwhelming and it can be unsustainable. We don't want to give more credence to that, what your inner voice may be saying now, whereas this is too hard and takes too long, it's unsustainable. If you are doing too many things that you need to do, without getting over the humps on some of them first, it is unsustainable. You can't master multiple things. You can't adopt multiple routines all at once. It is unsustainable. So let's not give more fodder to that. So also just reminding yourself, hey, this is the first time I'm doing this, or I've only been trying to work on this and do these things that I need to do that I don't want to do. I'm just starting, so this hump is temporary. It'll get easier. It'll get easier. The last one is the 3-3-3 rule. So I use this rule for like behavior adoptions. You can swap out some of them, but the main aspect is that in rules of three. So three times you try something, by the third time it should start getting a little bit easier. Now, if you commit to doing whatever that is that need to do over 3 weeks, that becomes easier as well. And then your next benchmark is 3 months. By that point, those need to do's, especially if they're consistent, that can become more automatic and become more of a routine. And so, really, if it's about, let's say, doing laundry, right? Trying to dedicate time to doing laundry on a Sunday. If that's about a good one for professionals, working, or really anyone, adults, kids, I'm going to sit down and before I start work, I'm going to make a to-do list. Do it 3 times over 3 days, then do it consistently for 3 weeks, then do it for 3 months. By committing in each of these benchmarks, what you're doing is you're getting a next checkpoint, and it should get easier and easier each time you do it. Now, the reason why I do like to build in the first 3 times is there is an executive function of self-monitoring. Let's reflect. Is this the way I'm doing it working? Do I want to commit to this, to making this needs to do easier for me? Then 3 weeks is another good benchmark. Hey, how is it going? Is it getting easier? Am I starting to see benefits? And then 3 months, it's reflecting on, hey, this is really just a part of how I manage myself. So what feels uphill today can become autopilot tomorrow and self-sustaining tomorrow. Okay, secret four, the decision shortcut. So I've spoken a lot about decision fatigue. Go check that out. I will talk about some of it. But I've spoken at length about decision fatigue in some of our previous webinars. So we are going to be talking a bit about that and routines in this secret. So when we're talking about the decision shortcut, what we're really looking at exploring is asking, do I feel like it, pits what you want in the moment against what you need in the long term. And routines and pre-decisions help take feelings out of the equation. And this helps avoid setting yourself up for failure. So what your inner voice may be saying is, do I really feel like doing this right now? Why are we asking that? Maybe I'll wait until I have more motivation so it's sooner. Well, if only motivation was a switch that we can turn on when we needed to, then that would be an okay thing to tell ourselves. But we never know when the motivation may come. What we want to do is get into this new line of thinking of, I decided already what I'm going to do. And once it's done, I can do what I want. That's where we want to move this new line of thinking to. So some of the things to try out is to pre-plan key tasks, especially ones that you don't want to do before the moment arrives. Think the night before. I was working with a student previously where they would go to the library and they would sit down and then figure out what they needed to do when they were at the library. And when they were there, it felt like, oh my God, I'm just not ready to do the work. And they would end up like pulling up Hulu and watching like 2 hours of something at the library. And then they'd start to try and get to work. And what we started doing is working on, why don't we think the night before what you need to do the next day? So it's not so you don't sit there and say, do I feel ready to do work? Well, it doesn't matter if you feel ready. We need to get to it. So by packaging these decisions the night before, it was a lot easier to plan for his future self because he didn't know how he was going to feel then. But it didn't even matter. So by packaging these decisions in advance, you're able to tap less into your emotions and more into really what is rational, what you need to get done. And then it wasn't so much of a question of what do I want to do now? It's, oh, I already decided what I need to do. The other aspect could be build routines. So should I never comes up. So I know a lot of the times when I'm going through something like weekly planning with people, it's, well, what if I don't have anything I need to plan? What if I'm taking vacation? Well, what we worked on is, let's just get this routine in that once a week on Sunday, you're always sitting down and you're looking at your full week ahead. And if you don't have anything that you need to plan out, you're going on vacation, great. You just got an extra 30 minutes or an hour, or however much you set aside. But it's not a question of, well, do I need to sit down and plan my week? No. We always go in with the understanding of, I am going to sit down and plan my week. And if I sit down to do it and I realize I don't need to, great, but I still showed up. That's where routines come in. So if you think about it, do you wake up in the morning and it's, should I brush my teeth right now? Should I do this? Should I do this? No, you have a packaged routine. You know what you need to get to, and you package routines together so that you get it. I'll share a very personal example. I was really good for about 6 months of waking up every day, 5:45, getting to the gym by 6:15. It was a routine. And then I got sick and I fell off my routine. And I was sick for like 2 weeks of just not feeling good. I haven't really gotten back into that routine because you know what happened when I was sick? I would wake up and I say, should I go to the gym? Do I feel like I should go? I allowed that question to come in and it threw the routine on. Routines are meant to remove that. Again, a routine is like a prepackaged decision and behavior, but a real consistent one. So these first two tips is, one is more in the moment prepackaged decisions of, what do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do this week? Versus routines are prepackaged consistent decisions that we're facing. And with each of these, fall back to the previous secret, and you can use some of the 3-3-3 rule to really help out with getting these into routines for yourself. Ask yourself, when you do find that if you prepackage decisions, and if you find yourself changing those plans, changing those decisions, try and stop yourself and ask, am I changing plans or these decisions with my brain or my heart? And write it down. Take it out. And we're going to talk more about that aspect of making these things more concrete instead of in our own head. But by asking yourself, am I changing these plans with my brain or my heart? You're really trying to ask yourself, am I doing this more rationally because it's the best decision to make? Or am I making more of an emotional, feelings-based decision? And if you are finding that it's more of a feelings-based decision, you really want to take that with a grain of salt and question whether it's the right decision to be making. Try and check yourself to bring in more of that rationality in that decision making. Progress helps create the pathway to excellence. So now, shape your space. Quick check on if anyone wants any questions. I will keep checking out for them. Okay, so shape your space. Why does this work? So your environment nudges you more than willpower does. So make the right choice easy and the wrong choice harder. So your space does the heavy lifting for you. What do we really mean by this? Well, your inner voice in an unshaped space may be, you know what, I'm doing work in my room. Maybe I'll just lie down instead for a little bit. Maybe I'm a little tired. That bed looks really comfortable. I want to lie in bed. Or maybe it's, should I just scroll for a bit and then I'll do work? Just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, right? So both of those are with an unshaped space where we're trying to be productive. We're trying to get to the things that we need to do. Let's remove the wants. Because if right now I had a TV on right behind this screen that I'm presenting off of, imagine I had the TV on with my favorite show, or maybe pretend I was into sports. I'm not. And it was like some really important game going on. Do you realize that setting, my space is set up to constantly face, I want to be watching that, but I need to do this. I want to be watching that, but I need to do this. So much of how we environmentally set ourselves up are there ways that we can help set ourselves up for success by removing the wants from being right in front of us. Um, a new line of thinking here can be a shared in a shape space is here I only do the thing I came for. Here I'm set up to do the needs, and I can't even choose to do the wants while I'm here. It's creating a physical space where it's not just so easy of, oh, pull out my phone and now I'm scrolling, versus if my phone was in the other room, the choice to then go do what I want to do instead has a real physical aspect. It's not just so easy for me, it's right in front of me. I'm actually setting it up where here I have to walk over, I have to find it, all of that stuff is creating space for us to make right decisions and catch ourselves slipping into these want decisions instead. So try this. You can make work tools easy to access. Always have your laptop charged, like notes visible, supplies ready. And then you could add friction to distractions. Have your phone in another room, block tempting sites, hide the remote from yourself. One that I was very proud of myself before I even knew any of this stuff when I was in college. There were times that I would have my laptop and I'd go to the library. I do that with very particular types of tasks because my laptop had all of my fun things on it too. I had games on my laptop. I'd be able to message friends on it. There's a lot of distractions in what was meant to be my productive laptop, my school laptop. But there were times when I really needed to focus and I wanted to remove the what everything I wanted to do instead of what I needed to do. I would particularly go to use the school's computers. Didn't have my games on it. It didn't have all of the things that I could distract myself with. It had website blockers built in. That was a form of shaping my space. I was adding friction in order for me to actually go and use the things I wanted to do instead. I would have to make a very physical choice to go and do that, to go and access those things. And so that's a big reason why I often ask people, where did you try and do these need to do tasks? Well, I tried doing it in my bedroom. Okay, what did you end up doing? Well, I ended up laying down and I fell down for a nap. Logical thing to happen in a bedroom, right? Logical thing to happen when you're laying on your bed is to nap. Totally makes sense. Don't beat yourself up that you fell asleep because you were on your bed. Beat yourself up that you chose to do work in your bedroom. And so, this really shaping your space to set yourself up for success. So, your space should be pushing you toward focus, not towards false decisions of what you want to be doing instead. Set yourself up to have the only option to do the need to do's. And then we're going to talk a little bit about rewards. Tie the reward to I can leave the library, I can leave the office when I'm done. It's actually one of the biggest challenges with work from home is this whole shaping your space. When we're working with a lot of professionals, we sometimes land on, even though it's work from home, you might want to get a shared office space. You might want to look into some of these things because it is very difficult to shape your space when you're in your home environment. This is where for any parents attending for their kids, well, they really struggle doing what they need to do when they're at home. Yeah, that's tough. Can they stay after school to do work? Thinking about things like that. So now, secret six, the accountability boost. So why does this work? So we'll often let ourselves down before we let others down. I always say people we work with, we sometimes use our coaches as these accountability boosts. Like mostly we use them because I always say people are altruistic. So they'll much rather let themselves down than let us down as coaches that are supporting them. So the secret here is how can you try and use that on your own? So external commitments, deadlines, partners, check-ins, they add weight that motivation alone does not provide. So what does your inner voice say? I can always make it up later. It's not a big deal. I don't need to do this now. Now, Those might be totally irrational, and if you said that out loud and then listened to it a week later, you might be like, that was totally stupid. That wasn't the right way of thinking. But what we want to try and do is develop this new line of thinking. This excuse would sound silly if I told my friend this, or if I told my mom this, or if I told my colleague this, or my coach, or my partner. We want to get to this point where we're trying to take what that original inner voice is saying and almost set ourselves up where, what if this was presented to someone else? We want to challenge our own bias towards procrastination and towards the want instead of the need. So some things to try out can be shared deadlines or progress check-ins. This is one of the things that works the whole science behind what's it called? I'm blanking out on the name. But like when you just work in a shared virtual room with someone else, even if you're not talking, it's that accountability buddy that you may set up. It's pairing up. So study buddies, workout partners, weekly reports to one another. These are ways that I know, like the way we've designed coaching is we do want those we work with to say, what if my coach is going to ask me why I didn't get something done? What am I going to tell them? Wait, this sounds silly. So let me actually just do it. That's the same thing with the study buddy. A big strategy I share over with a lot of students is I I used to love getting my classmates to rely on my study guides that I would put together because that held me accountable to get the study guide done sooner. I knew my classmates would ask me, "Hey, you have the study guide for this upcoming test?" They thought I was helping them when really they were helping me. It was an accountability boost. Um, Even further, for any parents or students listening in, nothing better than sitting in the library and having your friends come in and ask you, what did this mean in the study guide? Can you explain this? Because some of the best studying is teaching others. But that can be very similar in work. You comprehend better when you are working with others, but they also hold you to account. If you don't have a partner, how can you simulate similar benefits? Write your excuse down, say it out loud, record a voice note, and play it to yourself later. But this often is a way to help you show how some of these excuses, how weak they really are. Get it out of your head, though, because our heads are very good at biasing the way we're interpreting things. But if you write it out, it's a way to make it more real so you can really critically analyze it. You can set yourself up to be accountable more to yourself. And you can set regular check-ins or updates if you don't have a partner as well. So like I just said about like making voice notes, maybe you set in a check-in of I'm going to listen to my voice notes about some excuses of my need to do's, why I didn't get to them, and review them together or review what you write down. So excuses shrink when accountability grows. Excuses lose their power in convincing ourselves the more that we develop this accountability. Secret seven, rewards that work for you. So rewards drive behavior, but only if they're intentional. What often happens when the rewards become these precursors is they become entitlements and they lose their power. You're losing a huge tool for yourself. So by shifting them into tools you earn, you can retrain your brain to connect effort with satisfaction. So what your inner voice says in an, ooh, sorry for the unshaped space and shape space, ignore those parts. So what your inner voice says having to do with rewards is I should get to relax no matter what. I'm entitled to relax. Well, in some cases you are, but we shouldn't just be relaxing all the time, right? Whereas the new line of thinking is relaxation is sweeter when I've earned it. My reward means something now. So some things to try out is you can pair some of your effort with enjoyment. Music while cleaning, a latte with errands. Pair it. So this is really habit pairing. This is a way like when I do dishes. When I'm cleaning up the kitchen at night, I've shared this excuse multiple times, but I put on an audiobook and I don't listen to my audiobook unless I've earned it or unless I'm doing something that I don't really, that needs to be done that I don't want to do. You know what I do want to do? I want to listen to my audiobook, but I don't get to listen to my audiobook unless it's paired with something that maybe I need to do. So I look forward to cleaning dishes, not because I want to clean dishes, because I want to listen to my audiobook. Um, Delay a favorite indulgence until after a task is done. So I play video games. I enjoy playing video games. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll do laundry and then I'll put my clothes when they're dry right on the spot where I typically sit down to play video games. So now I have a physical barrier to doing the thing I want to do until that task is done, creating that reward, having it there as a visual reminder. You can audit your current default rewards. What are some things that you are rewarding yourself, but what are you rewarding it? Like what behavior are you rewarding it with? And how can we try and shift this to try and move this from an entitlement to something we earn? Take something that is very motivating, that you really do want to do, and try and tie it over. And that's why I often, like a lot of parents do try and do this, but try and tie certain things like, oh, we can watch your favorite show when you get X, Y, and Z done. That's the reward. But you got to be firm on following through. And it's a big thing that I work with. I've worked with over the years a lot of college students that are living on their own first. It's, well, what are some things? Do you like to relax over the weekend? Do you like to go out? Do you like to sleep in? Well, you don't get those things. There is almost a side effect of punishment. And this is us trying to take away the entitlement. It's viewed as a punishment, but we're trying to retrain our brains to really realize that why are we using these things to help motivate ourselves? So I am going to wake up early on the weekend if I need to go to the library to do work, or I am going to stay later at work. I don't get to go home or I don't get to shut off until I get these tasks done. Use these rewards, try and shift these entitlements to things that can actually help us get to the things that we need to get done. So rewards are most powerful when they're chosen, not assumed. Secret eight is starting to tie things together. It's not really its own secret. It's a secret about all of these secrets. Scaffolds like routines and rewards help at first, but the real win is when effort itself feels rewarding. And so your inner voice might be saying, if no one else sees this, what's the point? They'll never know if I don't do this right now. They'll never know if I do it later. But the new line of thinking is, I may not want to do this, but I need to. And I know I'll feel good when it gets done. This takes a lot of maturation. It does take time. So using these secrets, it is ways to trick our brain in the short term, but we really do want to be trying to get our brain to a point that we do value the effort we put in, that we do feel accomplished when our to-do list gets down. It's one of the big reasons why I always encourage a physical to-do list is I love when I work with clients and they're like, I finished everything on my to-do list. They didn't want to necessarily do any of those things, but they are getting that same delayed reward. And then that way, that becomes the fuel the next time they go through the things that they need to do. You know, I remember that feeling when I finished my to-do list, how good I felt. Or when I crossed off so many things on my to-do list, I needed to write a new one. So some things to try out to build up towards this is end your day by writing one thing you're proud that you followed through on. Maybe it wasn't ever motivating, you didn't feel any reward, but write down that I am so happy I don't have to worry about that anymore. Because what you're doing is you're tying that really good, happy feeling of not having to worry about it anymore to that input that you put in. You're rewarding yourself with a pat on the back. You want to notice when effort does feel satisfying, not just the outcome. You know, this is starting to feel good. I'm feeling a lot less overwhelmed now that I broke this task down. and start to try to replace I have to do this with I'm choosing to do this now. It's giving yourself more agency in this rather than feeling like you're a slave to your need tos. You're really trying to tie this more and mentally trick yourself to intention. I'm choosing to pay my bills because if I don't, I'm going to get kicked out or the electricity will be turned off. You're trying to take this away from something you're being forced to do to something you're choosing to do. And so the hacks may get you started, but the pride and progress help keep you going. So we are at time. I have two more slides to go through, but just for anyone that does have questions, you can start typing them in if you'd like. So systems first, you're not broken. So systems over motivation. Systems, routines, and these secrets and these supports help carry you through dips. Motivation is extra. It feels good, but it's not required. A metaphor analogy that I like to use a lot is you want to think of these systems, these strategies, these approaches as your mashed potatoes. It's your sustenance, it's part of the meal. But this motivation and this desire to do things, it's gravy. It's nice when it's there. The mashed potatoes, of course, they taste better when there's the gravy on top. But you can't rely on gravy to fuel yourself, to nourish yourself. You need to rely on those mashed potatoes, and those are the systems. You are not the problem. So struggling to feel like it isn't a flaw, it's human. Everyone prefers easier, more enjoyable tasks. This is especially true with people for ADHD. The ADHD mind is an amazing efficiency tool. It's wired to look for the fastest, most efficient way to get things done. But those feel the most efficient in the short term, in the moment. But when you zoom out, they're not. So have some compassion for yourself that it's okay to want the easier, more enjoyable tasks, but it's not about what you want. The issue isn't you. The issue is that you're expecting motivation to do the heavy lifting. Again, this concept of I'm not motivated is not something that used to be there as much previously. There are a lot of times that you just need to do things that you need to do. And success comes from solving the real problem, which is designing systems that work, not blaming yourself. So I'll leave you with this last kind of quote. I wanted to do a little Moby Dick reference. Motivation is the white whale. This aspect of wanting to do things is the white whale. It's rare, unpredictable, and exhausting to chase. Whereas systems are the ship that actually get you where you want to go. So with that, I see some questions starting to come in. And for anyone that wants to keep their questions, um, first question, will there be a recording? Yes, there will. For everyone that's registered, attended now, when I have it ready on YouTube, I will email all of you right away. But we also, we share over the prior month's recording in our monthly newsletter, which we send out in the beginning of each month. Is there another session? We try to have these once a month. I do my best on it. Always looking for topic recommendations around these areas. So if anyone has something that they'd like for me to explore, it's a good way to keep me on my toes, but also to speak to what your guys are looking for. If anyone prefers to keep questions more private or very particular cases, you can email me at casey@nfl.net. You could also call our main office line. And if you ask over for me, I'd be happy to hop on a call. My colleague will help schedule that. Anyone watching afterwards also and recording, feel free to reach out if you have particular questions. You can also comment on the YouTube when we put it up. I get back to any questions on the comment sections. You should also, I highly encourage that when I do send over the recording, share it with anyone that may benefit. And you should receive after this a short survey via email. I really would appreciate it if anyone could fill it out. Um, and I will also include that when I send over the recording as well, if you don't get a chance to do it. Future topic, repeated failures and being on time, goal setting, and how to rebound. You know, might be time for us to do another problem solving reflection, learning from. First thing I'll leave this with to the person that asked, repeated failures. It's only a failure if you don't learn from it. And so let's focus on the aspect of I may struggle with something, but how can I adapt? But I do like that topic. Any other questions? Okay, I'll give it another minute, just in case someone's typing. And I love doing these. I feel like sometimes like a mad scientist in my laboratory whipping these together, and I hope they're useful. I hope everyone is taking something away from this. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up then. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a good one, and hopefully hear from some of you. Have a great night. Bye bye.